cannot bless it. I cannot endorse it. We have to agree to disagree agreeably, and you do your thing before God as you believe it, and free me to do my thing and don't judge me for it, but I cannot participate in it. Please respect me. That's our approach. And so that comes to the church constitution, and I'm at the end now. This is just a clause out of our church constitution. So we as a church own a property in North Riding near the Dome, right on the edge of Cosmos City and North Riding equestrian area. The property is called the Vineyard Community Center, although the congregation is called Following Jesus. So in our property constitution, we say the Vineyard Community Center is the legal property of Following Jesus on which it conducts its ministry. VCC and all its facilities may be rented out on occasion for various community functions as deemed permissible by the eldership or oversight team, the trustees, who reserve the right of entry and usage. This was given advice by legal advice to us, this wording. It's general, but they believe it's specific enough to cover what might come. The belief and definition of marriage in point 15 of our statement of faith, that is under section 3, prohibits any facility to be rented out or used, or any minister or member or outside person to conduct a ceremony or celebration of same-sex unions or so-called marriage other than what is defined in our statement of faith. Clause 15 in our statement of faith, this is the last slide, reads like this. So we have 16 or 17 clauses in our statement of faith attached to our constitution. We believe marriage is a holy institution ordained by God exclusively between a naturally born man and a naturally born woman, as per God's created design in Adam and Eve in Genesis 1, etc. Marriage, or married, is the biblical word for a permanent, binding covenant, as Andre said, entered into before God, a community and civil society between one natural man and one natural woman. This is wording given to us by an advocate. This is the context in which sexual intimacy for the purpose of mutual love and procreation of children is to be expressed. This is the concept Paul uses in the New Testament with regard to the qualifications for leadership, instructing that a leader, if not single, should be the husband of one wife. We quote the text, in other words, both to be sexually faithful within both partners, to be sexually faithful within the covenant of marriage. This excludes all other forms of sexual relationship, whether temporary or permanent. Such sexual behavior or relationship disqualifies its participants from any leadership role in our church. So that's in our statement of faith, in our constitution, so that if stuff comes up as we go along and we take a stand, we have the backing, if we take into a court of law, is this is our religious conscience, this is our understanding of Bible, and if you persecute us or if you rule against us, it's now on the basis of religious conscience. That's why FORSA, that's freedom of religion. Freedom of religion in South Africa, of which Advocate Nadine Badenhorst is an eloquent part of it, and the other gentleman you referred to, Reg Willis, who's coming this afternoon to speak here on the legal side, also an advocate, is really, really important. We must be engaged in the public debate and aware of what's going on and make our voices heard and put in proposals and debate. Because what's coming down the line basically will be our fault if we don't say what we believe and what we think. And even if we say what we believe and think and it's overruled by the parliament and whatever majority or lobby or pressure group that wins the day, then we have to say, like Peter, on this matter, Sanhedrin, government, we'd rather obey God than man. You can send us to prison, you do what you want. But at this point, I nail, like Martin Luther, my 95 theses to the Wittenberg Door Church. This is where I stand, and I can do no other. Questions, comments, subtractions, multiplications.
There are a couple of questions. We don't want to put them on the mic so that it's, because we are recording the session.
Thank you, Skip. SA Christian Directory. Last night I was too tired. It's just amazing the way you brought across Scripture. I feel safe. I come from a Dutch Reformed background, boxed. The three approaches, number one. Luckily, 40 years down the line, I've got a much more open mindset of what's going on. Three approaches. In this conference, at this present moment, 5 breakaway sessions, there's going to be different views of what you just proposed.
Yes.
In the directory, I was trying to map all Christian energy ministries, networks, whatever in South Africa with the idea of, sort of the whole idea of one voice, getting on the same page. We're not on the same page regarding this topic within the church environment.
Yes.
And I was hoping that people will go back home being on the same page. But I'm not sure if we're on the same page, and I'm not sure if we will ever get on the same page. Perhaps that's the first question on just getting your view on this thing of a Christian voice, the same voice. And there's the new thing of a Christian consensus of Arno van Niekerk. Now, we've got to get a Christian consensus.
Yes.
Do we have a Christian consensus on this debate?
Yes.
I'm not sure. So the flocking, it's very clear what the Vineyard Church is stating.
Yes.
The NG Kerk came up with all sorts of positional papers. The members decided bye-bye on this topic.
Oh, okay.
So there's an exodus of people within the NG Kerk because same-sex marriage or gay has been approved, and there's some talk of the whole leadership thing and people, playing organ, and, I don't need to tell you more about that. So the second question is the fact that you took a very firm stand. What was the impact on your growth or people saying bye-bye? So that's sort of the second question.
Yeah.
And the third question, what you mentioned in the directory, I've got a map, Christian energy in South Africa. And the moment if I put LGBT as a category, 80% plus of the Christian participants in this whole directory will say bye-bye. So that's 3 questions. Thanks.
Hey, Skip, it's like the Trinity. God help me now. You'll have to probably remind me of the questions. But just to say, let me start at the end in terms of the bye-bye story of putting an LGBT. Again, tragically and sadly, it's a reflection of the overwhelming prejudice that we are all coming out of as heterosexuals and the general conservative church, whether it's Reformed churches, evangelical churches, Pentecostals, or charismatics. So just to see LGBTI within a database or as a category or whatever, the mind immediately says, is this organization now promoting or endorsing LGBTI? Without saying, Skip, thank you for your email. I see LGBTIs here as a category. Can you help me understand what that means and what you mean by it? You ask questions first. You don't make conclusions or judgments. So leaders have got to be courageous and lead in this area and lead our people out of prejudice and hatred and homophobia into a Jesus ethic and a Jesus approach, which is in the middle ground. Going further into just affirming an endorsement is not what we can do because of Jesus. The middle ground is that you'll be crucified, as our master was, because he was radical. So it's just difficult. So we in our church, when we did the position paper, 2013, 2014, we held a seminar, invited other people from other churches, and we taught through the position paper with 4 sessions. So we got 2 guys who started off with their stories. Craig Groom, who runs a ministry, he was a practicing gay for years, came to faith, was a Baptist pastor in Mondial, and runs a ministry today at Plain Oak. So he came and shared and works a lot with Living Waters and helping sexually broken people, in particular gay brokenness. He shared his story. One of another person shared their story. Then we had we had 2 sessions on the biblical input, then the pastoral practice. So we carefully took our whole church through it. Some of our people on the conservative side were uncomfortable and unhappy, but were mopped up by personal talk and pastoring people. On the other side, some said, the way you spoke, Alexander, was not merciful enough. You used the wrong pronouns. You didn't do cisgender, and you didn't do that. And I said, man, just have mercy on me. I'm an old man, and I don't know all the language yet. I'm learning and I'm growing. But I was criticized from both sides. But it's fine. Welcome to being a pastor. Welcome to crucifixion. I'm not here to please either side. I'm here to do what Jesus did. So it's a very painful, difficult journey. We're coming out of years of conservatism, which has been experienced on the other side as hatred and judgment. And to come to the middle ground is difficult. So you've got to give education. You've got to open up courageous dialogues. They talk about a safe place to have certain dialogues. I talk about a courageous and safe place. This has not only been a safe place to talk openly from the affirming position and non-affirming, but it's been a courageous space. That very few churches would do what Sean and the team have done. Very few churches. So I'm not sure if I'm answering your question. We didn't lose, to my knowledge, we didn't lose anyone in our church over this issue, because we went through the steps of thinking it through, coming to a position, making it known, teaching our people, offering reading material, offering to meet one-on-one in dialogue to pass the people through it and come. It's the same that we've done with women in ministry and governmental leadership. Many conservative churches still believe only men can be elders. 12 years ago, we have a position paper in Vineyard on women. We believe the New Testament will endorse all. We lost some people over that, and they were male chauvinists who don't believe that women can be in ordained leadership. So you lose some along the way, but we've got to lead, and lead lovingly, wisely, but courageously and with compassion. And that's the middle road. Very difficult indeed. On your particular issue, Skip, maybe I'm thinking now because we dialogued a bit. You could perhaps send an email to your entire database to say, dear friends, 300,000 people, all those denominations or whatever, or at least the denominational heads. I've just been in attendance of this ACSI conference that's been on the identity question. And I myself have come to the point where I believe we need to open a dialogue and help our churches to have an open approach to wrestle with the scriptures and the pastoral personal challenges of human identity questions. And I'm putting this on the agenda. I want you to be aware, or give me your feedback before I put it on the agenda, so that when you do see it, you don't react against it. There are ways of approaching this that can be wise and sensitive to win people, and God can use you, Skip, as a leader and a catalyst for the 80% who were just rejected by seeing the word. If you open up a dialogue and take a year view, if necessary, dialogue over a year before it goes public on the agenda to win people.
And just a quick 2-minute comment on his first question about the unity, the one voice amongst the churches.
You're talking also about Arnold consensus. Yeah.
I've got always this illusion of one voice, Christian consensus, and obviously there's different streams. There's 2 of the 3 approaches definitely sitting now in different venues. It's got 2 of the 3 approaches. Will we ever get to one voice?
Okay, look, this is just Alexander Fenter speaking and his opinion. But from my experience and my knowledge, I don't think we'll ever get to one voice. We will always live with difference, and there is healthy difference and healthy conflict and healthy debate. There is unhealthy difference and destructive debate and destructive conflict. And we need to distinguish between the two. So we can agree to disagree agreeably and have authentic fellowship together and walk with Jesus. And it's not necessarily consensus. Even in Jesus' day, Judaism is not monolithic with one voice. Within Judaism, you get Hasidic, ultra-Orthodox, Orthodox, Reformed, then liberal, and conservative in between. So you live with diversity of view and opinion. Only when Jesus comes will there be consensus. I've read Arnold, what's his name? Arnold. Arno, and the Consensus South Africa. You referred to him. Yeah. So I've read his 10 points. I'm not sure if I can agree with all of them, but the question I've got to ask is, can I agree with sufficient enough to actually give my name to it and support to it? But the deeper question that I cannot ask because I don't have personal relationship and haven't seen him is, what is your paradigm about church and state? Because my fear is he's operating from the old Christian government. Christians take over government, which for me is not a correct understanding of kingdom theology of separation of church and state. And Jesus' teachings to give to Caesar what Caesar. And so I need to have a dialogue before I can put my name there. That's an example of healthy difference where I'm unable to have consensus. So it's a long answer to a short question. But we have a few more hands here.
There we go. Alexander, thank you. Graham Yoko from Accelerated Education Enterprises.
Yeah.
In the presentation, you mentioned about the gay or LGBTI people coming into the church.
Yes.
And then they are in a process
Yes.
of, my question would be, in a process of what? What would the end of that process be in the eyes of, or the view of the church?
For the view of the church.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in other words, if they came in and they said, well,
Yeah.
you can't be in leadership because you're in this process of, you're celibate, but you're
So,
working towards something, what would that thing that
Yeah.
be that they were
so I would
working
say,
towards?
I wouldn't even start off with leadership or what you can't or cannot do. I'd say, hey, welcome. Oh, I see you here second and third time. Oh, can my wife and I come and visit you in your home? I'm the pastor.
Right.
Build relationship. Hear their story. Tell me about your journey. And as you go along from attendance to regular worship, to building relationship, to invitation to join a home group, at some point, are you going to become a member? In that process, whatever God does to bringing up in conversation, God does. I don't preempt it by saying, you dress funny, or you speak effeminate, are you gay? You treat people with utmost dignity and respect at face value until God takes the wraps off according to relationship and trust. As it comes out, you just take them through the process of talking. If they say, I struggle with this, I'm wrestling with that, we work pastorally. If necessary, we go for counseling. If we find out that I'm struggling with same-sex attraction, at some point we ask, are you practicing in any way? Do you have a romantic relationship with someone, or are you having sex? But I only ask that down the road. I haven't even begun to talk about you can't be leader. That's nog a story at some other time further down the road. So in process, that's what I mean. Dialogue, relationship, trust, pastoring, hearing their life journey, working with their questions, etc. So orientation can be different degrees of struggle, from being so driven where they're on the edge of making the decision, I am this, what I feel, and I'm going to come out now about it and say, I am gay. And then I say, look, before you make that decision, can we talk once more? It's better to say, I am in Christ. I'm a Christian. I'm not gay. Whether you're heterosexual Christian or gay Christian is not the issue. You're a Christian. Now let's talk about that. And we talk about identity orientation. If my assessment is that they're ethically vulnerable to sin and practice, then I curb their level of involvement in ministry into safe places. So it's always a nuanced, discerning approach on the basis of this person and where they're at, as opposed to, this is our framework, you're going to fit into it or not. That's the big difference. This, what I'm proposing, is the hard work of time and hours to truly love people. As opposed to the pastor who's got 45 bodyguards and 80 secretaries and doesn't see their people because he's a celebrity pastor and just rules the roost and doesn't give themselves to their people and spend time with their people. We're going to be, God is going to hold us accountable as spiritual leaders one day for the way we've led our people. And I'm very aware a good shepherd lays down his life for his people. This is laying down your life and hours of relationship building and dialogue without judgment until God brings it all to light and you work the best you can with them. If they are practicing, then we help them to stop practicing. If they are not practicing, we help them to remain celibate. But in the process of remaining celibate, we help them to work with orientation through counseling and prayer and ministry. My orientation is that if given my own way, I would not only have one wife. I would be like Jacob Zuma. I'm being a bit facetious, but you know what I mean? I've got to discipline myself. I've got to curb my instincts, etc., etc. I'm in process until Jesus comes. And I go, sometimes if I need help in certain areas, I go and get help. I don't say, I eventually decide, this is me. And therefore, I'm a polyandrist. Or I love children, I'm a pedophile. Or I love animals, I'm a bestiality person. That decision to come out is the crucial point.
Just quickly, because I know it's lunchtime. In my role as a church and school leader, I often find myself balancing the needs of the individual and balancing the needs of the organization. Because in protecting the individual, you're protecting the kingdom, and protecting the organization, you're protecting the kingdom, you know. Now, I'm referring to church membership, and I'm sympathetic towards your opinion. But at what risk do you put the organization? Because by default, you accept people into your organization, and in the public arena, their opinions are linked and associated with your opinions because they are now members. So any opinion of theirs thrown into the public arena, by default, backfires on you as an organization.
I understand. Look, again, Debbie, very insightful question, very difficult question, and especially referring to an organization like a school. Yeah, a church obviously is a family, God's family, more than an organization. And for me, there's a qualitative difference between a constituted Christian school versus a constituted church. In church, I can teach our people the way of Jesus, which is unconditional acceptance with discerning love. And if people reject LGBTI people becoming members of our church who are celibate, then it's their problem and they need to grow up. And I teach them accordingly. But in an organization, as a Christian school, it's different. Having a gay teacher, it's now publicly modeling something in front of the kids if they are in a practicing lifestyle. If they are not in a practicing lifestyle but are oriented, you're going to make a judgment, and you're going to have constitutional or legal backing to not employ or employ, depending on what you think is vulnerable or not vulnerable in terms of the kids with background checks, etc. So it's actually a very complex issue. But from a church point of view, as a pastor, I cannot be organization-driven. I've got to lead Jesus' way. And that means on the member side, I've got to teach them and encourage them to grow and to become more like Jesus. On the other side, I've got to teach them to embrace the radical ethical demands of Jesus and conform to the gospel of Christ that can transform them. And I hold both two together in tension. So I understand, how do I balance the people and the mindset and the well-being here that too many don't leave versus the generosity of grace of inclusivity here. With great, it's like the verse that Jesus said, the answer to that is with fasting and prayer. With great difficulty on your knees and asking God, oh God, help me. But too many pastors protect their churches for wrong reasons at the expense of the individual because their salary is involved and people leave the church.
Okay, give him a round of applause. Thank you so much. Alexander, just on behalf of everyone, just want to say thank you.